Hi, my name is Bruce Sweetman. I'm here at the 2021 Porsche Parade in French Lick, Indiana. I'm here with Grant Larson, the designer of the Boxster, and we have a first-generation Boxster here that we're going to take a look at and take a walk around.
This video is brought to you by SunTech Paint Protection Film. Protect your Porsche with SunTech Reaction, combining the benefits of paint protection film and ceramic coatings.
You know, I first started Porsche in 1989. We had, up until the time when we started the show car, which was around 1991, there was several false starts, I must say. So when you look at the back side, that's of course the most individual side of the car. There's a lot more sharing with the 996, a lot of more similarity, but I like the back of the car especially.
You were one of several designers, I believe, that were tasked with coming up with a concept.
I was in this department called Vorentwicklung, which is the advanced development. I was like the only designer in there, speaking with chassis engineers, suspension, motor engineers, and things like that.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the elements here? I mean, you said the back is your favorite part of the car. This is, of course, a special car that Lee Raskin, who's provided this wonderful early Boxster, and Lee is a big expert on James Dean. You obviously incorporated the fender, so to speak. I don't know if that's what the shape of the 550 in designing this.
Well, characteristic of the early Spyders, whether it's the 550 or the 718, considering also the 911s, is the dropping off rear end. I mean, no other manufacturer at that time had such a low rear end. We wanted to maintain that, so you had as well as in the front, so you have a low bonnet, front and rear, and then higher fender, so like haunches, just to give it a sense of power, but it's also harking back to Spyders and Porsches of the past. Knowing that is very bad for things like high-speed stability and downforce. That's why we had to come up with this spoiler. We would have liked to have more of a wing, different kind of spoiler that we're doing now in our cars, but at that time we had to really watch our budgets because our sales were so low and had so little development money, so we had to get the best bang out of the buck that we could do at that time. But the other characteristic thing from all Spyders is a central exhaust.
Yes.
That was a feature that was very typical of what Porsche did, very characteristic of their Spyders. So you imagine the two rows of the three-cylinder banks coming together, meeting in the middle, and coming out. It seemed like a really efficient way to do about it, as long as it doesn't have a tow hook on the back, a tow ball.
The wheels, those are something special, I think?
Well, it's a specific wheel for the Boxster. It came out of a 16-inch, we thought was much too small. We initially designed the car with 15-inch wheels because of budget reasons, but I think they accent the car quite well. It fits to the form language of the car.
The concept car, of course, had those distinctive low ducts with almost a pipe inside of an opening.
The idea behind that was like it was way down low here. It was a feature that came and went like this, and it came in. And it was a whole, like one half, the majority of it went up into the engine. The little tube here was supposed to go back to the brakes.
Yes.
Just as a feature, functional features, and that little feature idea of a additional pipe or intake or whatever you want to call it is also what we have in the show car in the front. So you always kind of visually indicate where air goes in and comes out.
Yeah.
That was always just kind of a fun thing a designer likes to play with when you have, like, whenever there's a functional background, for me it's more fun to design.
The door handles were probably synchronous with the 996, or they the same?
Yeah, that was done.
But that was new for the car, I believe, for the model.
Yeah.
Notably, the side is smooth. Of course, that was the era.
You have to think of this. The show car had a lot more stuff going on, a lot more form. The things that went in the intake, you notice that starting with the 981, we finally, after the 987, we finally got away. We're able to separate the Boxster and the 911 with more development money. Two separate doors for two separate cars. Up until that, for the 986 and 996, there's a carryover door for both cars.
Yes.
So by doing that, you're not only designing a Boxster door, you're designing a 911 door, and it's a real 911 is real simple. You know, it has to have the shoulder and the flared out fenders and everything like that. You have to, anytime you want to put a little feature here leading into there, the 911 didn't want that, so we're always making compromises between the two cars.
Right. I read that a lot of the the magic of the aerodynamics comes in the tweaking of the car after the development. And can you talk a little bit about the kind of things that might have come into the equation?
Yeah, for a designer, if there's anything that poses the most challenge or challenges is getting a sports car aerodynamic. You're talking about downforce, you're talking about high-speed stability, and it's all about safety. So you don't want your car leaving the road just because of bad aerodynamics. So we did our best with both cars. So the way the aerodynamicists work at the beginning of the project, they like to get the basic form. Get the basic form right, get their basic homework done. So we tried really hard to make the best out of it. You know, you notice that it's like perfectly smooth. We wanted to have a little bit more flairage and things like that. You know, have the wheels sticking out a little bit more. But there's a lot of things that you just have to make compromises for. Looking at a car and judging it is one thing, but when you own it and drive it in everyday use situation, you really appreciate the fact that we created yet another car that could also be a daily driver. So, for example, the Boxster didn't necessarily need such a big trunk in the front. So the Boxster had to schlep along, as they say, what the 996 required. But after owning a Boxster, several Boxsters in those early years, I was real thankful for how many cases of beer you can put in the front.
There's a little lip under here,
Yeah, it's kind of funny because once the aerodynamicists are real dissatisfied with what we've come up with, they always come up with these final little tricks. And it's a real small little thing that just deflects the air in front of the front wheel and makes such a big difference. You have the same thing in the back wheel, and those are those little backup plan B things that aerodynamicists have to finally, at the final phases of the project, through the final tuning, as well as like the whole underbody. They always find sources and places to tweak out the final thousandths of points, as they call them, in sort of like unseen areas.
Now we've come to the headlamp. It was no secret that they share the front end with the Boxster, but
if you want to develop an expensive part for a car, it's a headlamp. It's just expensive. There's a lot of development taking place. So the first thing you want to do is combine them in one unit. I mean, if we could have combined this in there too, that would have been even cheaper. But that's illegal because the thing has to be on the side.
Okay.
So we did our best to make the best headlamp we could by combining all those elements, and this is what we came up with. And basically the theme, sort of like a 90s theme, where is that basically what you do is you describe the shape of the lamp with the cut lines of the car. You notice that this one comes through here, and makes that one line, this comes through here and does this and comes around. So it's all, I think it's really well designed. We made some shortcuts in the execution, all for the reasons of basically timing and budget. But meanwhile, I think they've become their own individual thing. They sort of identify the early Boxsters, and I've grown to really like them over the decades. I think it's kind of a little bit of a designer talk about how the thing falls together. Maybe people understand it better once you stand in front of it and describe it. I mean, it's a departure from what we've done in the past, but we did the best we could with what we had at the time.
I think by any standard, a big success. Of course, it went a long way to saving Porsche. It, of course, came out about the same time as the Mercedes SLK and the BMW
Slightly
Z3.
afterwards, yeah.
So I think must have sold a lot more cars. I know it was much more, got a lot more accolades.
Well, I don't know the numbers, but I think it was. I think the price was really good. It was introduced as coming in at the same price as the 968 was going out. So it wasn't a real moneymaker at the beginning, but we caught up with that when they introduced the 996 through the parts sharing.
Yeah. Looking back, is there anything that I wished we would have this one thing or not?
I wish we had more time. More time. But there was a point in time, it's like the board of directors said, this is when we're going to introduce this car, and it has to be done. Yeah. You count backwards to that, and you have these gates. Yeah. It's like, and sometimes we overshot those gates, like a lot. We were like working nights, weekends. It was sometimes nice to have a Sunday off, like totally illegal in Germany these days. We were working really hard because we know it was for a good cause. We knew that we had after a few false starts, we knew we had a good chance with the pair of these cars coming out and turning the company around, which it did.
Thank you, Grant. Fantastic.
My pleasure.
Great to have you here at the Porsche Parade.
It's great being here.
Thanks for coming. I'm glad you're able to get out of Germany a month ago. Maybe it wasn't so easy. I don't know.
Let's hope I can get back in.